I'm Stephanie Murphy, and this is Dana Scanton.
Hi.
And Dana's going to share her testimony with us today of what God has done in her life and through her life.
So I have been always going to my faith my whole life. My grandmother has gone to Faith Assembly, and my mother has went her whole life. And as I grew up, I faded away from the church and, was a teenager and hung out with the wrong people, and, you become who your friends are. And I felt like one day, God, I was rearranging my room and I felt like God spoke to me, and I moved my table and it said Jesus calling, and I felt like God was calling me that day. And ever since then I've been trusting in Him, and I had more faith than what I had. And from when I got diagnosed, I really started trusting in Him, and my whole life is based on Him now, and my whole life has changed. So the one day I was on my way to school. I was on my way to the bus for college, and I was walking and my leg was just dragging, and I was like, why is this doing that? You know what I mean? I was telling my leg to pick up and it wasn't doing anything, and I was like, wow. And I couldn't swallow. I wasn't able to talk right, and I thought maybe I was pregnant at the time. I was 7 months pregnant, and I thought maybe Aries was on my nerves or something. And I went to the baby doctor, and they told me it was nothing to do with the baby. So I called my family doctor, and they told me to go to the hospital right away. So I went to the hospital, and I got a CAT scan, and they found a lesion on my brain, and they sent me to Lehigh Valley, and I got an MRI there, and that's when they found out I had DIPG brain tumor. DIPG is located on the brainstem, and it is inoperable and no cure. So it normally is found in 3 to 5-year-olds, but I'm 18, about to be 19 in January, and they found it in the middle of my brainstem, so it's malignant.
Right.
So they don't have many options for DIPG, so we kind of radiation is the first, treatment, and they've been doing that treatment for years. And then there was Mexico, and there was other trials, and we called them, and some of them declined me because my tumor didn't shrink enough, or from the radiation, or God, I felt like God opened and closed doors for me, and He opened the doors for Mexico, and that's where we went. I felt like God was with me every single day. I mean, at one point I wasn't able to move my leg, my whole left side. I wasn't able to pick up my arm, move my leg. Nobody understood me. It took an hour to eat a burger. But I had a smile on my face, and I felt the presence of God, and I don't know, it was very overwhelming, and it was just, I felt like I was at a spiritual high with Him, and I have many testimonies because I felt like God was continuously speaking to me, and I just felt Him always. They said it was a 1% chance of leukemia, and so I was very iffy with getting radiation with her in my stomach since my percentage was so low, and I didn't want to risk anything with her, and so I waited as long as I could with her in my stomach. So my symptoms got really bad on Christmas Day, and I wasn't really able to breathe very well, and we went back up to Penn on Christmas Day, and the next day they told me, you need to get radiation now, and I felt like God was working through people, and, because I was so torn, I didn't know what to do, I didn't know whether she should come out now or to get radiation. But I listened to my doctors, and I got radiation, and I felt like God was holding his, hands over my stomach.
Protecting her.
Yeah, so I got 8 rounds of radiation with her in my stomach, and then I had her. And that's a crazy testimony, because all the anesthesiologists said, because I had a C-section with her, so all the anesthesiologists said that I'd have to be fully under, and that I might not wake up from that because the way my tumor is, and and getting an epidural was very, very risky, because all my symptoms would just get worsened, and it would be very bad. But so I got that news, and I was just like, I trust you, God, I trust you, God, I trust you, God, like nonstop for hours straight. And the next morning, this doctor, a new anesthesiologist, came on duty, and she was like, I believe I could do an epidural on you. And I just felt like I was being rewarded. Mm-hmm. And I was awake from my daughter's birth.
I can't help but get tears in my eyes, even though I've heard this story many different times. Her anesthesiologist was a Christian, am I right?
Yeah, she was.
And they played Lauren Daigle while Aries was born, am I right?
Yeah.
Which, that doesn't happen. And they all surrounded you before they even did the surgery and prayed over you.
Yeah, before they did the epidural, because they knew I was very nervous.
High risk, yeah.
Yeah, so they prayed with me before that, and I felt really good. I felt really good that they did that.
It was just a God thing completely.
Yeah.
And Aries was born.
Yeah. She
wasn't due until February 18th.
And she was born January 4th.
Uh-huh. But she was perfectly fine.
Yeah. She didn't need any oxygen, or she didn't need, all she needed was sugar. She didn't need to get fed. She was doing everything on her own.
Our theme for tonight is God is so much more than we expected, and Dana's seen that through her testimony, and we're going to continue to see that. Then it was your birthday.
Yeah.
January 11th, a week later, was Dana's birthday. And I remember texting her happy birthday that morning. And she said, what happened on your birthday?
So that morning I woke up at like 4 or 5 in the morning, early, and I just prayed and prayed and prayed, and I felt God with me, and I spoke in tongues that morning, and I just felt the Holy Ghost go through me from my head to my toes. And that day I read the devotion, and it said that you receive to
guard well this gift that I have planted in your heart.
And what do we get on our birthday? Gifts.
Yeah.
So I want to share with everybody how I'm still clinging to God's promise of healing me, and I'm still trusting in Him and still having the faith. And I believe that God told me He was going to heal me. January 17th, He told me that He weaves miracles into the most mundane day if you keep your focus on Him. And a couple of days before that, I made my social media accounts uniquely weaved because I'm sorry. I made it uniquely weaved because my doctor told me that my tumor was weaved into my brainstem. So I feel like God was talking to me that day, definitely. And He is going to give me my miracle, and I'm still trusting in Him and believing in it, and I believe He wants to. I believe that God has been working through all of this, and He has just, his timing is just so perfect. I can't get over it. It's like I don't when in the hospital when I was very sick and I started to get better, and when Aries was up in the NICU, she was a little weak and she grew stronger, and so we were waiting for me to get better and for her to get better so we can get released, and we both got released on the same day, and I just feel like that was God.
Mm-hmm.
You know, his timing is perfect. He's never too late. He's never too early. He's just right on time.
Amen. Amen. And then, so that after you had your treatment in Philly, they gave you the radiation. Then you came home for a while, and the radiation was continuing to work, and you were feeling better. I mean, you had a few different spasms and weakness and that type of thing, but you were doing well for the most part. And people here in the area, and your brother helped you get a Facebook thing, and there was support from everywhere. You had people praying, and just your story had gone nationally. Lots of people were praying and lifting you up and supporting you in many different ways. We had runs here in Weatherly. There was all kinds of stuff going on, and I just can't help but think how much your mother and you both, and in just your visits at the hospital and different people that you've come in contact with that you otherwise wouldn't have touched at all, I'm sure God's going to use that in ways that you will never even see. You will never see on this earth.
Definitely.
But
Definitely.
in heaven you will be able to see. So after a couple months, after about 3 months, your radiation was starting to wear off. So you had to decide what was next, what you were going to do next. And how did you come about that decision?
So my brother has a lot to do with this. I mean, he researched he put a lot of his time into this, and he researched and he researched and he researched and he found the best place for me to go. And I believe that, God worked through him, definitely. And because these decisions were like, out of my control, I felt. And I felt that, I only wanted to do what God wants me to do. And I feel that God has provided me, every step of the way and every decision I made. And I ask him always to open my eyes, my ears, my heart before I made a decision. And he has done that every decision I have made. Mm-hmm. And so I went to Mexico for about 6 treatments, and it was shrinking, and then it stayed stable for about the 4th treatment, and then the 5th and 6th it grew. So we looked for another treatment, and my brother found someone in the time that we were in need of treatment, and I felt like God put him in my life, because I felt like I needed a treatment right then and there, and he had it, and before he came, I said, God, please open my eyes, my ears, my heart, because I don't know if this chemo is right or not, I don't know if this is the way I should go or not. And I believe that God put him there for a reason, and it's crazy, I had a question for him when we were talking, when I first met with him, and it was, when can I get these drugs as soon as possible, because my tumor grows every week. And so I had that question in my head, and he was talking and talking, so I didn't interrupt him. I waited until he was finished talking, and he started to open up his suitcase, and those were all the drugs in there, and that was my question, when can I get them? And they were right there, and I felt like I was seeing what I needed to. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I'm at now in my point, and I just got told the tumor has grown Thursday, but I'm not discouraged. I'm not, let down. I'm not scared. I don't know. I feel last time when I got told it grew, I felt like I needed the treatment now. But now I feel like I'm okay and I'm at peace and I'm okay with not doing anything right now. And I don't know. I just, God is with me.
He is with you.
I am His, and He showed me that I am, no matter what happens to me, I'm okay. And my daughter is okay. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I wouldn't take this him away if I could. It changed my life for the better. And faith is everything that I have now, and
Yeah. And Jesus has been so much more than you've ever experienced.
yeah, He has. He has.